Hi everyone, this is Caitlin with the Aging Division. I run the Title III C programs, and this is just an add-on to one of the videos I've already done, which is the new director training. The one I have done is programmatic, but this specific video is for invoice training. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started by showing you our website and where you can find the monthly invoices for the federal programs. So we are housed under the Aging Division, and we are the Community Living section. You can find any and all provider resources on the website, and specifically for the financial reports, you'll go to Provider Resources and click the Financial Reports section. Under the Financial Reports section, you'll find all of the monthly invoices and all of the quarterly financial reports as well. And the invoice you'll be looking for the C program is the Federal Provider Monthly Invoice with Instruction. If for some reason we have found problems with the invoice or there have been changes, we will notify you, and the most recent copy will be available on the website. So just make sure that you are always getting your invoice document template from the website. So you'll click on this and it will download. I already have it open, so I'm not going to download it, but I just wanted to start off showing you exactly where you can find that. Under the provider monthly invoice, you'll see different subsections at the bottom. The first is general instructions. It just tells you how to fill out the document very briefly. Doesn't go into very good instructions specifically for each program. But then you'll see the detailed instructions, which does actually go into obviously detailed instructions. Not specifically for each program, there are examples on there, but that's the purpose of this video, is to show you how you would fill out a C1 and C2 invoice. But if you are a new director and are just starting out, this is a good page to start with and to make sure that you are reading all of this information. One thing that I do want to show you is there is an example of C1 and C2, and this is kind of where I'm going to start and go through and just use this as an example somewhat to show you how you should be completing an invoice. But if you do ever have questions or run into a problem, this is a good spot to go to, just because it does go through and walk you through how to fill out an invoice. So, like I said, I'm going to walk you through C1 and C2. Because the C1 and C2 programs are so similar, I'm not going to do an example of C1 and C2. I'm just going to do C1, and you can take that same information and apply it to C2. The only difference between C1 and C2 is the reimbursement rate. So really, that's the only thing aside from the name Title III C1 and Title III C2. The reimbursement amounts are different, and that's the only difference. So I do have an example of a profit and loss statement that I just wanted to use and kind of go through how to fill out an invoice with, just so that you have an example clear on what to do. If your profit and loss statement doesn't look like this, that's fine. It's just very simple and organized very well, and so that's why I chose to use this one. So going ahead and getting started, I'm going to go back to the detailed instructions so I can kind of show you how we're going to start things. So as you can see here, your first step is to figure out what your total expenditures are from the profit and loss. So using this example, we can see that this example has $15,752.91. So that's the end total expenses that we're going to be aiming for, and your total expenses on your profit and loss statement have to match to the total expenses on the monthly invoice, which will be right here. So the first thing that you'll have to do is figure out what your program income is, because your program income must be expended first. So if you look at this example, their program income is $2,874.68. So the first thing is we're going to do is add 2,874.68. In the expenditures column, you're going to want to go back and look at your grant application and make sure that you're expending your funding based on how you applied for your grant. I'm not going to actually do that, obviously, for this example, because I'm not doing a realistic example. But for this example, I'm just going to show very clearly that you need to be expending your program income first. So whatever you receive that month, you must expend within the same month as well. So top to bottom must match. Going back to the detailed instructions, your next step after program income is NSIP expenditures, if applicable. This specific example of a P&L does not have NSIP on it, so we are not going to be having NSIP on the monthly invoice. But if you do, you will put your NSIP expenditure in this column. The next step is to enter your meal count numbers, and just a reminder that you must include a SAMS report with your monthly invoice to be reimbursed. So let's just do 688 meals. So once you type that in, you'll see that it'll populate the reimbursement amount for your month. It has federal and state separate because it does provide funding from each of those sources. You'll want to take the top upper portion with the blue. It's just a rounding issue on the bottom portion, and sometimes they're different. So the blue numbers will always populate or round to the upper portion, so make sure you're using that. And then this yellow box right here is your total amount of reimbursement, including federal and state amounts. This yellow box should match to this yellow box because your reimbursement amount and expenditures for federal and state should be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as an example. We will be putting in the exact same amount for federal and state as was populated. And I'll go on later to describe a specific circumstance in which this might not happen. But for this example, we are going to assume that the provider wants to receive the full amount of funding that is eligible. So here you'll see that this number matches to this number. That's exactly what we are wanting. So the next step is to find the difference between your total expenses here and your total expenses on the profit and loss statement. So as I mentioned, it's $15,752.91. I'm just going to crunch the numbers of that. 15752.91 minus our total expenses we have here of $5,048.35 is equal to $10,704.56. So if you have WSSB money and you split that into 1/12 payments, then you're welcome to do that. Just a reminder that your WSSB and local cash income does not have to match the income on the profit and loss statement. If you receive $20,000 of local cash one month, that doesn't mean you have to expend it that month. It means that it's available as cash for you to use through that year. And it can be expended in whatever months you need to use that funding. So your income and expenses need to reflect that as well. So we're just going to say that we didn't have any WSSB this month. So all of the funding was received, all of the funding used to make up the difference of the meal is going to be local cash. And as I said, your income needs to match to your expenses. So just make sure that this number matches to this number. And the only time that it will not match is if you have in-kind, because in-kind cannot be counted as an expenditure. So we're just going to put in $500 for in-kind to show you an example. So this amount right here is your total income for local match. You'll see here that this blue box right here it's not the same number as the white box, and that's because the blue box is not counting in kind. And therefore, this blue box must match at minimum the local match expenditures below, which is this number right here. They match, so we are good to go. You'll see now that the total expenses equal $15,752.91, which matches thereby to this profit and loss statement. So this is an example of how to fill out an invoice correctly. One thing that I did not do correctly in this example is like subcategories for personnel, travel, other, and consumable supplies. So just make sure that your total for each of those categories also matches to your profit and loss statement. That is how you fill out a monthly invoice. As I mentioned earlier, There are specific instances in which you might not receive the full amount of funding. For example, some people like to do 1/12 payments so that they know they're receiving a consistent amount throughout the year for each month. If you are doing that, then you would just put in your 1/12 in the federal and state, and it would not match to these numbers here. It can never be more unless you didn't utilize your funding in a previous month. But again, you can always do less if you know that you're serving more meals this year and you just want to keep it consistent. In those specific circumstances, I can provide you more information. Feel free to just call me and I can walk you through it. There is another video on calculating the state amount for that because it has to be calculated correctly and using a specific formula. So if that does apply to you, make sure you watch that other video as well. That is all I have. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to contact me. I am more than willing to walk you through an invoice. Thank you and have a great day.